poets, and of course one from San Francisco, poet laureate of San Francisco, Tongo Eisen-Martin. We also have with us Conney Williams, Shonda Buchanan, bridgette Bianca, and Los Angeles' own poet laureate, Lynne Thompson. They are fantastic. Before we get to the reading, though, I just want to say a few words. I would like to begin by acknowledging Bianca Baroque's presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism, genocidal practices, and the violent dispossession of their land. As an arts organization and as a literary organization, we are committed to uplifting indigenous writers and communities and honoring their stories, their poetry, their art, and their history. So to say a little bit about Bianca Baroque, we are dedicated to the artistic possibilities of language. We present contemporary literature and arts, particularly poetry. And we are also dedicated to building a diverse literary community, of which this festival is very much meant to be sort of a particularly important project, bringing together not all of it, that's impossible, but many of Los Angeles' diverse literary communities. The work we do throughout the year encompasses readings, talks, panels, performances. We have an art gallery, we have a bookstore, we have an archive. We've got really just a huge diversity of writers and artists in our community, and we are dedicated to showcasing them every week of the year, pretty much. We are launching a few new programs next year. We are celebrating our poet-in-residence, Will Alexander's newest book, with the founder of the World Stage, Kamal Daoud. He will be here in January for a conversation. Please come back for that. We are also launching a new interdisciplinary series bringing together poetry, performance art, sound art, experimental film. That's being co-curated with the poet Daniel Tiffany. That'll be, I think, a quarterly event starting in January. And more immediately before that, a bit of a tragedy for us. We are going to be paying tribute to the late Linda J. Albertano on December 10th. Linda was a hugely important part of Bianca Baroque, and she passed away recently. So do come back for that as well. It's a very meaningful event for us. This last night of the festival, I really, really, really have to say thank you to Bianca Baroque's staff. They have put in so much work this weekend. Jimmy Vega, Yvonne Salinas, Jessica Wong, Eliza Gislason, Eric Alberg in the booth has been a hero. So thank you all for all your work. Thank you, of course, to the Poetry Foundation, who has made all of this possible through generous grants to us. We really appreciate that support. It's not easy to pull this kind of thing off without a little financial backing. And thank you to all of you, particularly those of you who are members. Is that Kamal Daoud coming in the door? I was just talking about you, Kamal. I was saying you're going to be here with Will Alexander in January. But truly, thank you to all of our members and supporters. It's been a huge help to have your support through the pandemic and through our reopening. If you're not a member, please do consider becoming one in the bookstore. It costs as little as $50 for an individual membership. It just provides us a lot of support, and you do get in for our events for free. We've actually not been charging, so we hope to continue that. But even if we do charge, you will be able to get free after that. I won't say too much more about the program or about the organizational stuff. As you can tell, my brain's a little fried after 3 days of this. Except to say, just please do buy our authors' books. You support them. You get a little something out of it, which is some amazing poetry. And you also support the presses that this festival is meant to showcase and support. One final word of thanks, too. This is co-sponsored by the World Stage Press. We love the World Stage Press. Thank you for all the work you do in the community, support poets. And our first reader is Conney D. Williams, who is from the World Stage Press. Say a few words about them. But just to tell you a little bit more about Conney. Conney is a poet, actor, community activist, and performance artist with 3 collections of poetry: Leaves of Spilled Spirit from an Untamed Poet, and Blue Red Soul Falsetto. His new collection, The Distance of Observation, was released in August 2021, which means it's basically new because of the pandemic, on World Stage Press. He also has 2 critically acclaimed poetry CDs, River and Moan and Unsettled Water. Please welcome one of LA's best poets and readers, Conney D. Williams.
Wow, happy birthday to me next Friday. It's kind of surreal. I was saying that yesterday. I've been in Los Angeles for 41 years this month, a week away from my 66th birthday. And it's kind of crazy that I find myself here. So thank you for supporting Beyond Baroque and these amazing artists that are here tonight. And I'm going to do something. Too much black life has been defined by Jamestown. And Serena Williams, she U.S. Open, a cat suit and dog season, like Lynne, girl got back like pre-American history, like them white country clubs where she practices dissimulation, pouncing on unsuspecting debutantes, dispatching him like private tennis lessons. Now, she don't fit in, but she got access and assets. See, ass kickings reside in her forehand, and they envy her game that chisels on its frame. See, jealousy has many aliases, like them television images that glaring with a precision ugly, even at a Grand Slam tennis tournament. And Serena, she ghetto fair, a tall drink of Compton cocoa, and blonde too. But she ain't no Heather, no Anna Kournikova. She done already won this game, ain't waiting no return from Vogue or Cosmopolitan to emaciate her self-esteem or mold her into a bulimic model of European beauty. See, cause Serena, she thick. She's thick like sisters supposed to be, with thick lips and thick eyes and thick hips and thick thighs and mostly a thick attitude. And I like it. So how do you father another man's son? How do you father another man's son? He followed me. He followed me like I ejaculate him on accountable streets. How come I wasn't there when he was born? How come I wasn't there when he was born? I never contribute sperm. People say we favor. DNA does a chuckle. And all you fathers stepping in, don't just loan them your name, but give them the gristle at the end of your bones. Hide your prayers inside their lunch and never ration relationships. See, I love this boy. I know I'm not his daddy, but I love this boy. And he don't never make no difference between me and biology. And I don't never make no difference between me and economics. We don't never make no difference. We don't never make no difference. Oreos pacify my nights as I ponder raising my daughter. House is dark. She's asleep. Homework complete. I got a fucking secret boyfriend on my mind. It's my baby, y'all. Former sidekick to my knee. Used to play all them rodeo games. Now she's at ovulation age. Curvaceous as PCH along the California coast. Halter top no longer empty. When she walks, teenage lions stalk her on Serengeti sidewalks as though she was an after-school snack. But if they look at her ponytail, they'll know she a baby. Only she don't think so. She think it's time to fly. I say, just cause you got feathers, don't mean you ready to fly. When the last time you see a man with no hands claiming he's lonely, surrendered reason for his heart to tender, and daily complaining he's hungry? This is how living escapes the grasp. Time marks like a feral enemy. Calculated wars are fought over correctness. Inject poison into opportunity. When the first time you see a man take off his pride. Pray before he eats. He doesn't require a God to repent or forgive. Sacrifice, always louder than bleats. Do you see a black man when melanin makes him invisible? Birth certificate says Violent is the first name. Last name is criminal. Have you ever trained with a black man trying to outrun racial profile? Every day he laments the weight of his birthmark, whose premature death is not a disguise. Thank you. Awake me, damn it. Make me breathe. This hibernating soul resuscitated from this long winter sleep. Do your work. Do the work in which you intended and make the spring come forth. Then, I smell your flower as it blooms. For your pheromone is in my nostrils like incense. Your smoke fills my room. How I love to drink the nectar from your vine. So don't confine me with limitations, faraway destinations that liberate me. Augmentation, liquid emanations that flow so sweetly and delicately from your tree. Like a bee, I am looking for every opportunity to pollinate your gentle statement. I have a taste for your familiar fruit that seems to always be in season. If I ascend your heights, will I find that you are ripe and ready for consumption? Let me swing through your forest with all of its black foliage. The entrance to your butter cave is overlaid by a waterfall when it's explored by my silent vocal instruments. So do you want to kiss me? Feel lips joined together like Siamese twins. Yours are pomegranates. Juicy. Brown. Consumable. Thank you.
Conney Williams, everyone. Please another round of applause. Thank you, Connie. Our next reader is Shonda Buchanan. Shonda is a Pushcart Prize nominee, a USC Los Angeles Institute for the Humanities Fellow, and Department of Cultural Affairs City of Los Angeles Master Artist Fellow. She's the author of 5 books, including her memoir Black Indian, which won the 2020 Indie New Generation Book Award. She serves, notably, as president of the Board of Trustees of Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center, is currently a writing instructor for a first-year seminar and a senior lecturer for the Department of African American Studies at Loyola Marymount University. I just want to take a moment to thank Shonda for all of her work at Beyond Baroque. Also, we have some other board members in the audience. Doug Brown, I see you there. I think Karen Kevorkian was here earlier. This festival wouldn't happen without a huge amount of work from our own Board of Trustees. We're very lucky on our board to have not only people who are dedicated to the organization, but who happen to be amazing poets, and Shonda is one of those. So please welcome Shonda Buchanan.
Thank you, Quentin. Thank you for putting up with all my wild ideas. I'm like, we should have a Starbucks. Okay. And the Venice community will say no. So thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm incredibly grateful. I'm putting the shawl here in commemoration of Red Shawl Day, which happened technically on a national notoriety 2 days ago. And we put the red shawl out for the missing and murdered indigenous women worldwide, not just North America, Central America, South America. And at the same time, I include the black missing and murdered women. We are missing as well. So on both of those areas. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to sing a song, just a part of a song that Eulalie is one of the founders of, Pirafe is one of the founders of Eulalie. And when I was singing in Virginia, she gave my singing group permission to sing this song, which is a women's honoring song. And so I'll start with this song as well. And if you don't know my work, I have Who's Afraid of Black Indians, which means, obviously, I think I'm Black Indian. But my nations are, of course, that African-American piece, the Kahari, Eastern Band Cherokee, Delaware Cherokee, and then also European. Okay. Machitambu iyam bigidi, machitambu konspewa ebi, machitambu iyam bigidi, machitambu konspewa ebi mapewa, hokoni ha, taha tahi tahita, yewe me itai. Nakaya ya muni, what you say? Nakaya ya muni, what you say? Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hooey, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hooey, 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 ha ha. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hooey, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hooey, 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 ha ha. There was a moment before that one, before the phone call about Zuri, when I waited underground in the dimness of the New York subterranean world, when I thought, this is it. A shaft of light through cement rails, the poem for us. Before the phone call, this was a poem for us. Before I heard about Zuri, mass of bodies moved against my pen. The little girl in me, in us all, the last poem in a book, the last book in a library, the poem that will give us back to ourselves without scratches and bullets. Wrists and ankles bruised, they stare but do not see, without stakes or bullets through the back, without our precious milk melting on a funeral pyre, all our bones together in one place, not separated and polished and buried in a man's floor, his yard, his car trunk, his walls, not sucked on. He kisses me, my son, my husband, my father, that stranger, without our daughter's mother's blood spilling on a ghetto concrete. Zuri's death, their initiation victory again. We want to be without rape, without war, death from childbirth, without longing, without good or bad judgment of our must-filled sex, just us, ourselves, a single self, not belonging to anyone else's self, not a mother, a wife, not only aunt or grandma, not sister, but the feminine being. Just us. Just us. Thank you. So I'm reading one other poem from my book, Equipoise, Poems from Goddess Country. And I rarely read from this book. It's like my secret, love. You have a secret love? But what happened was this book was published by just two guys who loved my work, San Francisco Bay Press. And they were like, we'll publish your book, but then you're going to have to do everything else. So I was like, oh, small press. That's okay. I love you. Publish my book. Yay. But this is a poem that really talks about the antiquity, the goddess image and icons from across time. But I also have some contemporary poems in here as well. And this is one of them. Oh yeah, settles on a girl in Harlem. It is 1993. 4 or 5. She is 25 or 6 or 7. She exits the plane at JFK, young, open, ready, she thinks, for New York love. He was a cliche of the Midwestern girl's fantasy. Writer at a prominent paper, smart, locked, single, artsy city boy. His words, lion eyes, lifted her out of the countryness of her small town. Ready, she thought. Later that night, at the lesbian party where MC Light came out, where women celebrated by folding 20s in strippers' G-strings, smirking at her like she a fresh rose in a field of grass. Ready, she thought, in his Harlem bed when he peeled her like a radish. Not sweetly, but with a knife given to him by a depression-gouged mother he hated, and he showed all the small-town girls how big city boys loved. She should have known by the shriveled oranges that looked like organs on a white plate by a small white candle in his apartment. Should have remembered how when they met he couldn't remember her name twice. It was then that she remembered the burning hair on her altar, ghosts of women, and Oya trying to save her, a warning she ignored. He rode her in his rat hole until she chafed, raw, broke under the bit. She didn't even know she needed to be broken. Most women don't. The girl dressed and walked out into the unfamiliar city. The night a cool bomb pulling pieces back together. And then like a light, like a dagger, flame, the whip across the sky, Oya settled on her. Flame in her chest like self-love, licking the blackness, plucking the girl. This was the moment, the place where she was saved, and she saved herself from the monsters who looked like men in Harlem, on an alien street cemented with vomit and dew. In her father's shoes and a thrift shop shirt from a store in her country hometown and a scarf, always a scarf. I am 25 or 6 or 7, touched and saved by a goddess who comes when called, when we are open and bleeding. It is the sacrifice required from the beginning of it all, the beckoning, the calling to come to the temple of yourself, and there is no going back. Thank you. So I read this poem for the WeHo event that we did, and I don't think I've read this here at Beyond Baroque, but sometimes there are poems that poets, I guess I should speak for myself. Sometimes I read poems that I feel like need to be in the ether, like in our hearts, right? As a remembrance or a mantra. And I also call these kinds of poems living poems because some things never stop. Some things haven't stopped. And I referenced this when I read the poem, the 3 young brothers who were the football players at UVA who were shot. And I keep looking for the ethnicity of the other guy who shot them, and no one's saying what his ethnicity is. So then we imagine, is he white? You know, or if he was African American, then they would say he was African American. I'm sorry? Okay, then he's African American as well. Okay, so thank you for clarifying that for me. But I'm like, all I see is their 3 faces. I haven't seen any of his faces. So read the poem. I hear Peter Harris. Read the poem. Read the damn poem. Yes. Read the poem. Return the white breath to its black body. Return the bullet to its gun. Return the gun to its holster. Return the hand to its side. Return the officer to his car. Return the car to its garage. Return the key to its pocket. Return the pants to the floor. The scalding coffee to its pot. The hot dark to the night. Return the sound of lovemaking to the room. Return the child's lips to her father's cheek. Return the arrest warrant to the computer. Return the counterfeit $20 bill to its pocket. Return. Return the car to its garage. Return the gas to the pump. Return the stars to the sky, the anger to its pocket, the racism to its seed, the door to its closed position, the bells jingle in silence. Return the chokehold from his neck. Return the big man to his home. Return the taser to its holster, the rope from around her neck, the jail cell open, the sister's car to the road. Return her shadows lining the road to the night. Return the bullets from her door. Return their steps to the sidewalk. Return the SWAT team to their vans. Return the vans to the garage. Return the Skittles to the candy aisle. The boy to his room. The hoodie to its closet. Return the whip to its belt. Return the scars from her back. Return the hand to its side. Return their ships to the sea. Return their bodies to Africa. Return the resources to the land. Return the land to its mothers. Return the tears from their eyes. Return the jewels to their hair. Return the whisk to their hands. Return the blessings to their mouths. Return the moon to its earth helix womb. Return the earth to the cosmos. Return the white breath to its black body. Return. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. So I'm only going to read two last poems. I have been working on a collection of poetry about the settlers of Los Angeles, and I'm doing the settlers of Los Angeles because the indigenous people were already here, of course. But the families that came from Sonora and Sinaloa, Mexico, were mixed race families, Africans, indigenous Indios, one Spanish, one Spaniard, one European, excuse me, a Creole, but then they would call them mulatto. But all of the women, the first names were Maria, right? Baptized into Catholicism, and they were all Indios. So this is a poem for the oldest, I guess I'll say, the oldest ancestor, the last surviving of those settlers. And she came here when she was 19. She was listed as a mulatta, and then in parentheses it says, Cajita woman from the Yaqui and the Mayo people. And she died in 1860. So I'm speaking Maria into this room, into the soil, especially for American Indian Heritage Month. She could hear the cora of her own heart, tasted Sonora, her father's Africa, her mother's mestizo on her lips. Spirits and slave songs and the ceremony of maracas rested in the small of her back. Her children could hear it as she walked the mission halls, crossing herself with shadows and memories. The inglorious snake dance her people took to bring the Franciscan cross to the city of angels, already named despite the nations who lived here. But this would change the world. Sister Maria laughed at how men, never the poets, always thought they could draw lines to capture the spirit of a people who could never be caught. They were more bear and dolphin than woman and man, more wolf than human. Walked like rivers flowed beneath their feet. The ocean was their mother, smoke and ash of good fires, their ancestors. Drawing a line around a circle to create a city didn't make you a king. Lines were simply lines, not homes, not ethnicity, not history, not heritage, not laughter, not love. Her 100-year-old mulatto blood held the memory of hunger, the devastating beauty of motherhood for this new world that had been drawn. She would outlive them, and she heard them singing as they came for her. The deaf, like friends on the Gabrielano wind. Antonio Mesa, an African from Sonora, Mexico, sang songs to his new river, ones taught to him by his mother, warm mud bank hugging his feet. It was, he knew, a beautiful splinter in history's eye. But he sang anyway about his love story. His tongue was the color of fuchsia when he laughed. He married a Sonora, Mexico Indio for her star cradle smile, for the way her black hair held its own breath running down her back. And because she gave him water when he cleared her father's land, the copper of his ancestors, the laughter of giraffes and elephants in his eyes said, "Marry her." So he married her in front of a scarab priest and his ancestors who came on Yanga's ship. Antonio's kisses carried the swollen throats of thirsty slaves, the ship master's cruelty in his bones, the endless hunger of Spanish governors coveting the sacred hills and mountains of his wife's people. He knew what conquerors did. His eyes and kisses said tenderly as he pollinated her with his seed. He dreamed in black African storyteller gree shells, black of his hand, black as the eagle's breast feather when he saw him flying above in the city where he laid the first stone for the first house next to a new river that wasn't his at all. This making of a new thing on top of an old thing was an old story, but he wanted his love story. It would be glorious. It would be a tragedy. Thank you. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Shonda Buchanan, everyone. Shonda claims she has wild ideas, but we've been talking about, Conney and Shonda, I've been talking about this reading for I think over a year, and it seemed like a pretty good idea to me, so anyway. Our next reader is Bridgette Bianca. Bridgette is a poet. Yes. Bridgette is a poet and professor from South Central Los Angeles. Her first book of poetry, Be Trouble, was released by Writ Large Press in 2020. When she is not sharing her poetry, she hosts 2 Instagram series, Young Black and Tenure Track, where she documents her experience in higher education, and We Be Readin' Wednesdays, where she discusses her romance reading obsession. Find her online at Bridgette Bianca or on Instagram at bridgettebianca.com. Please, everyone, welcome Bridgette Bianca.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I just want to say before I get started, let me set a timer first of all so I can take my time and nobody else's. I'm really grateful to be sandwiched here between, I don't know if y'all realize, you're getting 4 of the greatest living poets around, period. California, America, the world, globally. Yes, clap it up, please. Okay. So I'm just glad to be among that number. I'm just glad to be a little intermission in between. Okay. The restrooms are there if you need to step out, things like that. I'm just happy to be here. So thank you. So thank you for having me, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm going to share actually a new poem that I don't think I've ever read anywhere else. So it's going to be a Beyond Baroque exclusive, okay? But it's fitting. I've been having this feeling, so it needs to come on out of me, okay? No title just yet. Shocking. A white man who knows me by another name comes to hear me read poetry. Afterward, he asked me, when did I become Bridgette Bianca? Asked me this slyly, right? Like my real name is a secret identity. And he's in on it. Like Spider-Man or Superman or Batman, but I ain't no Bruce Wayne. He asked if Bridgette Bianca is a stage name and alter ego like Sasha Fierce for Beyonce. Bridgette Bianca ain't no alter ego, it be an altar. On it, pictures of my grandmothers, both of whom renamed themselves for themselves. On it, 2 candles, one lit for the one who's gone on and the one who is still here. On it, a mason jar filled with my parents' laughter, blended so perfectly together it sounds like my name. On it, a clump of clay dirt scooped by hand from a small rural town in Louisiana. A name no one has ever pronounced. They didn't live there at one point. It's called Natchitoches. Don't try to spell it. Just feel it. On it, too many letters pressed up against each other like bodies slick with sweat jostling in the hull of a ship at sea or grinding in a hole in the wall juke joint below sea level. On it, a name that only makes sense if you have time to hear a story. Only makes sense if you know down home everything and everybody got at least 2 names. What your mama calls you and what they call you at school. This white man who knows me by another name comes to hear me read poetry and realizes maybe he doesn't know me at all. That's that one. So I'm really glad to be here representing South Central Los Angeles for the SoCal Poetry Festival. I'm excited to bring a little bit of the hood to Venice. I love it. So I want to read a poetry about gentrification, naturally, from my book, Be Trouble. I live not too far from SoFi Stadium, though I try to ignore it, but it's like a spaceship. I can't really ignore it, and it's always like loud sounds. I never know really what's happening. I'm not a big sports fan. I just don't know what's going on over there. But it's there, and people are here. Poetry needs to be there. If they can put me on the stage, listen, I'll be there. Let's go, okay? But this poem is called There Goes the Neighborhood. First, they came for our bodies, snatched my nose right off my face, then placed a forearm across my windpipe, clamped a sweaty palm over my mouth, and said the use of force was justified because I insisted on breathing. Maybe it started with the ships. First, they came for our bodies, laid us down like railroad ties, carved a path west on our backs, filled their coffers with gold and our bellies with God and other white men for us to fear. Maybe it started with the ships. First, they came for our bodies. My body looked out of place in that car. How could I afford it? It must be stolen. I was stolen. And so they made me pay for it. My body looked out of place in that neighborhood when all along my body was out of place in this country. They uprooted and planted my body here because it was fertile and would yield more crops: cotton, rice, sugar, tobacco, independence from Britain, a more perfect union. Maybe it started with the ships. First, they came for our bodies. I cradle this economy and it nursed at my breast. It continues to reach under my clothing to be pacified and soothed. Never satisfied, this country throws tantrums because I won't bear it all for their profit, forgetting that prisoners cannot consent and my refusal never stopped them from taking my body before. Maybe it started with the ships. First, they came for our bodies. Then, they came for this land. Maybe it started with music festivals. Extravagant dioramas on stolen grounds where they cosplay in bejeweled bendies and dreamcatcher earrings and Buddha tattoos and kush and coronas and cocaine, limbs flaying like tattered flags as they dance to rhythms they beat out of indigenous bodies in boarding schools. The audacity of stars and stripes draped over their shoulders and eagle feathers in their hair. Maybe it started with the ships. Maybe it started with the coffee shop on a corner that's been empty since the riots, the shadow of a mini market where the shopkeeper called elderly black woman mama. Out of respect and limited English, not of neglect and limited anguish, we burned it in effigy. Maybe it started with the ships. Maybe it started with a new boutique with high prices and sparse racks, no layaway in their store policy, no habla español, no patience for poverty. New age vending machines looting bodegas. Fusion food trucks shaming sisters selling cocoa bread with butter and honey for the sin of gluten. The man selling oranges and cherries on the boulevard cannot compete with the new organic farmers market. Maybe it started with the ships. First, they came for our bodies. Then they came for this land. Gave it a hashtag for a name. The New World. South Harlem became Soha. Spanish Harlem became Spaha. Columbia Heights, D.C. became Cohi. South Central Los Angeles became Sola over my dead body. Come on, say D.C. bullshit. These hipster hideaways, upper middle class settler colonies, bourgeois urban safaris. The ghetto has become a life hack. The homes we made in the barrel's bottom after white flight are now hashtag best kept secrets. And the blocks where black and brown boys learn to click, click, bang, and get stuck become Plymouth Rocks for millennials wanting more bang for their buck. Maybe it started with the ships. This must be how the ancestors felt when they saw sails in the distance. The pilgrims have found us again, and this time they say they don't need our bodies, just the warm streets we leave behind. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to read another new piece that I had the privilege of reading. Lynne had all of us poets gathered together in the library. Poets from sea to shining sea. I mean, there were so many of us. And so I read this there. I went over my time there, but I won't go over my time tonight, so I'm going to do it right. 1992, South Central Los Angeles. I am 5 years old. Mr. Lee owns the liquor store across the street. He isn't black like me, but Lee is also my father's name, and because of this, I think Mr. Lee is a nice man. And he is. One time, I put a dum-dum lollipop in my pocket before leaving the liquor store. And my mother, she walks me back over, makes me apologize to Mr. Lee. He lets me keep it, but I cry just the same. Latasha Harlins is 10 years older than me. Her killer gets 10 years and then doesn't. A bottle of orange juice costs $1.79, or a 15-year-old's life. A dum-dum can easily cost a kindergartner, but I don't know that yet. Mr. Lee's liquor store doesn't burn down, but on our big console TV, everything is on fire. Mr. Lee closes early on those nights. One night, or maybe every night, I see the neighborhood butcher and his friend sitting at a card table in front of the store. The butcher and his friend look like my uncles. The butcher and his friend have shotguns in their laps. My father walks over with fresh coffee in one hand, a baseball bat in the other. Maybe the butcher and his friend are my family. After all, maybe Mr. Lee too. I am 5 years old and waiting for Soul Train, but the news is always on, is always breaking, is always busting a lip, is always fracturing a rib, is always blacking an eye, is always reporting live, is always reporting dead. The preachers on the news call for love and peace, but maybe they are missing something. See, I always shout, love, peace, and soul, sitting on my knees too close to the TV, eyes closed tight, just like I was taught to pray. And my children's Bible says, on the seventh day, God rested and admired what he had done. Maybe the unrest lasted 6 days so we could gaze upon our creation and say it was good. Thank you.
Bridgette, Bianca, everyone. Thank you, Bridgette. Our next reader is Lynne Thompson. Lynne is Los Angeles' Poet Laureate and a 2022 Poet Laureate Fellow of the Academy of American Poets. She is the author of 3 collections of poetry, Beg No Pardon, Start with a Small Guitar, and most recently Fretwork, where the 2019 Marcia Hawk Poetry Prize, recipient of multiple awards and fellowships, including several Pushcart Prize nominations. Thompson sits on the board of Cave Canem and the Los Angeles Review of Books, and recently completed her term as chair of the board of trustees at Scripps College. So, a lot of things have gone wrong over the past few years. I said this last year. One of the things that has gone really right is the city of Los Angeles appointed Lynne Thompson as Poet Laureate. Please, everyone, welcome Lynne Thompson.
Wow, wow, wow. What a fabulous introduction. Thank you so much, Quentin. We have a lot to be grateful for. I was listening to Ross Gay this morning on a interview podcast, and we've got a lot to be grateful for. But tonight, I'm grateful for Beyond Baroque and for this fabulous festival. I am grateful to Conney Williams, who has given me permission to be fine with the size of my ass. I am grateful to Miss Buchanan, who gives me permission to mantra. I am grateful to Miss Bianca, who gives me permission to alter. I am grateful to Mr. San Francisco Poet Laureate Tongo Eisen-Martin for showing me how to poet laureate. So thank you, everybody. So I had my little set ready for tonight, had myself all timed out and everything. And then I was approached by someone who said, I really love this book, right? So when someone comes up to me and says something like that, I'm still shocked that people actually read my poems. My family does not. That person gets a shout out. So Naila, this is for you. But anyway, I am a woman. He knows that. Knows it the same way he knows no matter how hard he tries to define himself as spark plug or whiskey neat, I will come back in the late night, as I always do lately, to prove myself more than otherworldly, to prove that whether he tosses you can't hold me or cow patties in my path, I will grind all of it into the mute earth that has birthed him. Knowing doesn't make it any better, doesn't stop the veins in his body from madly twisting the way 100 spiders might twist upon themselves in a mirrored, haunted house. He knows about haunted, about the axis in constant rotation, the inconvenience. No matter how hard he tries, the vision of my mouth and aspect remains. My mourning and my survival. My mourning and my survival. The vision of my mouth and aspect remains, no matter how hard I try, despite the inconvenience, the axis in constant rotation. I know about haunted, as in mirrored, haunted houses twisting upon themselves, madly twisting the way 100 spiders might. The veins in my body knowing doesn't make it any better. Into the mute earth that has birthed me, I grind all of it. Put "you can't hold me" and cow patties in the path wherever he tosses himself, to prove myself more than otherworldly. Always and lately, in the late night, when I come back to define him as spark plug and whiskey neat, no matter how hard he tries. It's that way. I know that. So this book, Fretwork, was my attempt to put in one place poems about my birth family and my adopted family. It didn't always like one another. But I wanted to do it because they always haunt, right? They won't go the hell away. Go to sleep! Cryptogram. She came back again last night in my dreams. She lounged atop my library of scribbles. I don't know how she got there, but while I wanted to speak of joy, Mother only wanted to speak of collapse. Neither of us said love, that burr and mystery. She arrived without, unclothed, salt in each hand, caught in the wrong. My knees bent to an unnecessary apology, an infinite sentence, no hyphen. It was a long night, moonstone, and the rush of her. So this is for the birth mother, for Beverly. Chord. 1. She didn't ask for me when she saw all of it ending, so I don't know how she went out. Whether she wept or sang Precious Lord or I wish I knew, she didn't ask for me. Perhaps she asked for nothing, nothing being what she once chose. I don't know how she went out, whether dreaming of my father or of the revulsion she had for her own. She didn't ask for me. She could have left one suggestion. She didn't, and maybe she died hard. I don't know how she went out, whether dreaming of me or furious she was at the end of dreaming and left with one last choice, not to ask. I don't know how she went out, and 2, I must tell you this, I did not go to her before her breathing became shallow, so she never knew what I've become, that as another's daughter I did long. Still, dressed in apologies and alibis, I did not go to her, my feet stuck in the sludge of my other mother's, please don't do this to me. She never knew what I've become. She never knew, and no one's to blame. Why can't every choice be just a choice? Because I didn't go to her, and why not? Continually, and even then I didn't. What is that? Even I don't know if I've become a liar, always fire in the grate, or someone else's reason to be grateful, but that's not good enough. I did not go to her. Everyone can see what I've become. Thank you. Tambourine. So we go back to the islands a little bit. My parents are from the Caribbean. Tambourine. 1. I am a slave ship washed up on spring, my name lost to history. I am joined to the tears of the crossing, a dwelling house yoked to the cane. I oscillate windward, then leeward, ever pulled down and down. 2, because memory lives beyond death, and I saw one of my grandmothers only once. Because my bones are carved from theirs, from myth, frangipani, and stories half told. Because my name was never only my own, and because I am that flying fish, that ghost. 3, you think you know me. The Mollusk Museum. 1. Family is and is not a velveteen pillow. Theater. A dinner hour mistake with candied yams on the side. A box at the bottom of. Flightless penguins hitchhiking through town. Footprints in a cemetery. 2. Cemetery. 2 moon pies per gypsy. Greedy art and dirigible need. Rushes and reeds. Tracing paper on papyrus. The solo. The ensemble. Wood ticks, wax moths. Hand drum thrumming the hand. A river, a poplar. The same old questions. 3. I come to struggle, to eat the edges of, to abrade the chemical and the all-chemical in the falling night, always a souvenir wrapped in a rigmarole. Vivaldi versus Jay-Z. I'm wrapped in biblical passages, but never in any book of Revelations or Quran or Green Hornet. All is taboo. Every day is like any other habit, a telegram, never opened. And I just have 2 more. This is the last poem in the book, and then I'll read a newer one. This poem has an epigraph by the essayist Margot Jefferson. What has made and maimed me? Who giveth this girl? She took the name Toy Cow. She was aware of her milk. Renaming is greater than privilege. At play equals desire, even when day after year she took the name she was given, shredded it, ate most, sent the rest to church where the nuns are a little ballsy. What's in a name is a confoundment, is alkaline, is sky torn down like wallpaper. Who giveth this name in wedded agony? Sticks and claims do not honor thy father, so Toy Cow is the name she took. The boys called her, the girls called her. When she began to call herself. Thank you. And I'll just close with this. Thank you so much. It's a little newer. History necessarily brief, so just stay tuned. Chicken, egg, chicken. Cluck, crack, yellow, mellow. Then a marefish, someone named them Eve plus Adam, grew 3 legs and coupled, but they soon grew sick of omelets with cheese, and enough will never be enough. So came dachshunds and turtles, the hut in the suburbs, by which I mean to say overcrowded cities of tent, to which the nomads objected, citing the gods, citing oil-slicked waters, and sometimes, often, citing no reason at all. But isn't the reason for what happened after the weapons, the rock, the spear, a boomerang, Chinese gunpowder? Okay, I've skipped some great stuff along the way. That was the new big thing. Sea cry of a conch-shaped trumpet. The screw press Gutenberg invented to record everyone's sins. The potter's wheel, the ship's wheel, flywheel, all depending on torque, just as many men do. Anyway, all of this was going on while wars, famines, tsunamis, wars were. Then, of course, a family went to see Old Yeller, flew to the moon, felled the birch and the sycamore. But ruin can be fine in the end. We each shine our own apple. Thank you.
Lynne Thompson, everyone. One more round of applause. I don't want to contradict Bridget from earlier, but I will just say we had 5 of the greatest poets in the country here this evening. One more to go. I just want to say, we've had 50 poets roughly over the past 3 days, and so I just want to thank all those poets, whether they're here or not. I also want to thank all the folks in the audience, or if they're not in the audience, just all the publishers, the folks that have built community. Kamal Daoud, again, I'll just say hi to you. Just a huge honor to have you here in the audience. I mentioned our board president, our board members, I know there's a lot of folks involved with other literary organizations here. Just thank you all so much for all the work you do for poetry. And for the literary community. It makes this a very special place, Southern California. For our last reader, we're going to bring in a little outside of Southern California. We have with us tonight Tongo Eisen-Martin. Tongo is a poet, movement worker, and educator. His latest curriculum on extrajudicial killing of Black people, We Charge Genocide Again, has been used as an educational and organizing tool throughout the country. His book titled Someone's Dead Already was nominated for a California Book Award. His book Heaven is All Goodbyes was published by City Light's Pocket Poets series, was shortlisted for the Griffin's Poetry Prize, and won a California Book Award and an American Book Award. His latest book is Blood on the Fog. Tongo is currently San Francisco's 8th Poet Laureate. He is here to close out the Southern California Poetry Festival. Please welcome Tongo Eisen-Martin.
What kind of mischief is this, bro? Like normal speed bullets changing a normal life. Like walking back to the United States in defeat. The ruling class is printing judges. Fiat kangaroos. Making judges hand over fist. Rapture cop packs and opposition whites all above a thorny stem. Cast plans picked out like vans for the murder show. Anglo saints addicting you to a power structure. You want me to raise a little slave, don't you? Bash his little brain in and send him to your civil rights. All street life, to a certain extent, starts fear. Sometimes with a spiritual memory even. Pre-dawn soul clap, your father dying even. Maybe I've pushed the city too far. My sensitivities to landfill districting and minstrel whistles. White supremacist graffiti on westbound rail guards. All overcome and reauthored. Reauthored by revolutionary violence that chose its own protagonist, or muted stage of genius, the garbage is growing voices. Condensed Marxism. For warrior depressives, underpasses in their pockets because they just might be deities, a decent bit on the Panther name, a merciful Marxism. Disquieted home life, a metaphor for relaxing next to a person who is relaxing next to a gun. I stare at my father for a few seconds, then return to my upbringing. Return to the souls of Ohio black folk, revolution damn near pagan at this point. You know what the clown wants? The respect of the ant. Wants to interpret pain only. Wants to pull a 38 out of a begging bowl. Wants me to hurt my hand on this pen. I'm not tired of these rooms, just tired of the world to give them a relativity. My only change of clothes prosecuted, the government finally learned how to write poems. Shootouts that briefly align. That make up a parable. A parable is like white bodies are paid well. Do white men even have leaders? Are all white people white men? A rat pitches a river. Can almost taste the racial divide. Can almost roll a family member's head into a city hall legislative chamber. Knows who in this good book will fly. I mean, all I do is practice, Lord. Decided not to talk out of anger ever again. Met my wife at the same time I met new audience members for our pain. We passed each other cigarettes and watched cops win. A city gone uniquely linear, Harlem of the West do a true universe. I will always remember you in fancy clothes, my wife said. So here I sit, twisting in silk ideation. Rifle made of post bellum tar. Targets made of an honest language. This San Francisco poetry is how God knows it is me whining. Riding among the lesser respected wolves. Lesser observed militarization. Dixie List prison bookkeeping, the California Great Coast are coming. Lynch mob gossip and bourgeois debt collection is tempting to change professions mid-poem. In the Chicago briefing, the white sergeant saying blank slate for all of us after this black organizer is dead. Standard academics toasting $2 wine at the tank parade. Bay of nothing, Lord, just nuclear cobblestones, gunline athleticism, and the last of the inherited asthma. Children giving white dolls to play with in fear. Facial expressions borrowed from rich people's shoestrings. I can hear hate and teach hate and call tools by people names and name people dead to themselves. No one get naturalized except federal agents soon. Carving the equator in the throat soon. I'm sorry to make you relive all this, Lord. All this pre-dime monarchy friends putting up politician posters and snorting the remainder of the pace. Menstrual scripts shoved into the walls by their elders. My children sharpen their quarters on these cities' edge. For these audiences, I project myself into a ghost-like state. For these gangsters, I do the same. Every now and then, take a nervous look east. Sleep becomes Christ. Sleep starts growing a racial identity. Do you ever spiral, Lord? Has the gang age betrayed us? Be patient with my poems, Lord. Hey, so much pain, it's a point to crime. It has to be if race traders come with it. Lord, is that my revolver in your hand? Better presidents than these, if you're on the cages, have called us holy slaves. Filled the school libraries with cop documentaries. Baby, I don't have money for food. Shit. I don't have a present moment at all. I go to the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot, negative all over the United States. There are toddlers in the rock. I see why everyone out here got in the big cosmic basket, and why blood agreements mean a lot, and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history or take the glass freeway. White skin tattooed on my right forearm, ricochet sewage near where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti. In the kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up. House of God in part, no cops in part, my body brings down to Christmas. The new bullets pray over blankets made from the old bullets, pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark, extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration, the waistband before the next protest post. Hey, by the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your deaths for last. You are with it, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It's only rented one thing. Non-white cops and prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on the oil spill. A neighborhood making a lot of fuss over its demise. A new lake for a Black Panther party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder. The figment of village. A new news to a new white preacher. All in an abstract painting of a president. Bought slavery some time, didn't it? The tattered screeches of military boats and election Tuesday cars. A cold-blooded study in leg irons. Proof that some white people have actually fondled nooses. That sundown couples made their vows of love over opaque peach plastic and bold action audiences. The Medgar Evers II is definitely my favorite law of science. Fondle news clippings and primitive Methodists, my arm chains and imperialisms. Simple policing versus structural frenzies. Elementary school script versus even wider white spectrums. Artless bleeding and the challenge of watching civilians think, man, terrible rituals they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads and the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest. Modern fans of war. With their T-shirt poems and T-shirt guilt and me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus, I had no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life. A lot of God can happen in 3 seconds. Not much heaven, though. Here's a man before a fight, a leave me alone type character emerging from the penniless death of a one-way street fiction. A fancy way of saying I'm going to make it even if I have to drive backwards. All I have is chord changes and 1,000 backhands. Driving the street like I'm choking it. Car full of nephews. Hasn't been a sun since November, and there hasn't been a street I can't choke to death. This city better back down. You see this gun on the table? And something about staring until it all feels stable. Why wouldn't I protect everyone? All my death sleep late. My son better be quick. My daughter better shoot first because we fall for no one. We fall for nothing. Okay. The first thing you'll feel is the heat. This lady would tell me, man, trying to tell me about possession. You know, drink like Nita is what I'm mostly hearing. Most of the world leaves me alone to breathe smog like a giant, to go to jail every once in a while when the genocide kicks up in late May, when politicians have too easy a time. I'm gassing backwards out a one-way street in honor of myself and in honor of you. If you understand the nature of the world, how long I've been just like my father. One hell of a resemblance says the anxiety of the neighborhood. This is a crossroads or a crossroads narrative. So much crossroads, people get in the habit of turning back on me. Turn back only to find themselves remembering me, but not my last words. A man before a fight, you'll feel the heat. But there's nothing to keep in mind. There's nothing to remember. Really, there's nothing to be. It's just this moment, then another, then stare, then it all becomes stable, then the table legs go fuzzy, and Friday's an unfamiliar face peeking in the window. I mean, it's cool to panic for a second. Composure is wasted on your worst enemies. People are marked on that sidewalk. You the only thing life-size. Everybody knows this in a wire hanger empire. When the blood stops walking, that feeling is not father enough to be permission to fold. You better swing one more time. You know that father of yours rose from the grave and said, man, just give me 5 more minutes. He said, running water is a myth. It's us who are running up, down, and all alongside this water. And people don't rise from the grave. They not laid down neither. It's us who flip all around their body. So, beware when the people around you all look like they about to jump. It might be your time. You'll feel the heat. And when 4 walls demand to be 4 walls, and the earth outside mutes, don't panic. Don't try to recreate the earth outside. Don't tell jokes to yourself. Don't even talk disrespectfully to the 4 walls. Instead, unclench your fists and walk away. There might be heaven. If you understand the nature of the world. Yeah, these little societies, man, they wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen testaments bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back. Like it's a Brinks. I wrinkle the concrete sometimes like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is the dangerous twin. Black August to the mountaintop balcony on my bedroom floor. You know they steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their fullest euphoria. From the loyalty up to their great superstition and loyalty up to their agrarian reform, I return to my mother completely disrespected. For peeling the heat off of purgatory, they kill poets like me. Walk me away from my poems, never to be heard from again. In this foul industrial complex of bloodlines picked through a sporting spiritual death that you definitely at least half made, police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves, teaching you how to write about cities. It's the 25th century in the mirror, people. Tyranny against your chump says you're a chump to be mocked, even with a gun in your car. A cubit of needlework spelled tune for the proletariat. The relapse ministry. Talented people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond. Dying. Just another service day in the theatrics of tea-house fascism. In a bouquet of surveillance cameras. In the poverty of God. New blue eyes, corpses of water, a newly potted presidency, a one big shiny coin, if you ask an animated capitalism, and other non-literal voids, killing is white freedom, the deification of hyphens, medicine, bread, and picture shows, great protesters in L.A. Guests of Art, Inc. Drop kicking roses in a graveyard. D.C. McMahon like a stone torn in half to pen advances, despite CIA guideposts, despite non-African past and futures, a metaphorical but not surreal day in a horn-ridden life, horn player improvising king, like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand sweep the land of racism. May I return to the ground? May I make progress with the gun? On our mother Emmanuel, they put on music that evening, a swinging tight body language for you to drink with ferment and $5 bills, for your body language some applause, my past stomach lining, neither a good thing nor a bad thing like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. It'll sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading you through surrender their souls to Africa too soon. Poly thought floating in a cup of water, she saved me. Accessing my stomach, accessing the love of the American lynched. Coast leaves wood and avalanche to the wrist, man. Our mother Emmanuel, avalanche to the sharp keys. Pain, the deal you make with pain. A piano makes sense for them. Laying hands on the world gradually. Addressing the bend and necks on the streets of the north. Travel sailing in pain, repeating pain in the north. 10 trigger fingers on that piano if harmony would have me. Putting 100 fights on every direction offered her. Lady Day, leaning on trees again. Recruiting the countryside itself. Lay your plan on this lightning. Make your poems a corner pocket of men. I've greeted the blues itself. America may claim my dead body, but will never include me. There goes the poet. Killing without killing. Never mind this little painting of your language. May I be a meaningful lynching. A crow's passing. Good and dead. By the afternoon.
Thank you for coming.